Alright, I just wanted to share this Sky Striker mirror match replay that I thought was pretty funny. So, I opened an unplayable hand. No access to Ray or any Sky Striker monsters. These two cards are unplayable turn 1. And I have multi-roll, which is useless because it's unplayable. So the first thing I do is I Foolish Barrel of Goods Metal Foes, which would let me draw a card, except for he ashed my Metal Foes. So, I don't even get that effect. But, since this stays in my graveyard, I can activate it next turn, so that's cool. I pass turn here. At this point, I suspected Sky Striker, and this card confirms it. So at this point, he's got 2 spells in grave, and he added Rose, which implies that he has Ray in hand. Which means that his hand is pretty good. He activates Engage here. I think this is wrong. I think he should attack with Hayate to dump the 3rd spell first, so that he can get a +1 off Engage. But, you know, it is what it is. He goes off here. I guess he really wants to push damage, so he summons both of his cards. Pushes me for 45. Hayate effect dumps another card. That would be his 4th spell in grave. Should be his 3rd, because he should have Engage in hand here. But, again, I think that's a misplay on his part. Goes for Kagari, adds back Engage. Standard goes +1. Or +2, I guess, since the Engage came from grave. Makes Zeke has to do this in order to play Engage. Adds Widow Anchor, really good card. And draws 1. Goes Shizuku. Sets 2, so at this point I'm thinking, alright, one of these is Widow Anchor. And what does he get back off multi-roll? He gets back Engage. I mean, he could have gotten back the Field Spell, but Engage makes the most sense. So I know that this card doesn't do anything on my turn. Shizuku adds another Engage. So if this goes to the next turn, he's just going to kill me. With like, plus 500 cards. I draw Maxi. Again, not a Sky Striker monster, so I still can't really do much, but now that he has cards on the board, these cards become live. I have 2 spells right now in the grave. So I'm thinking to myself, these cards can pop a back row and pop a monster if I have 3 spells in the grave. But again, I only have 2. So first I activate multi-roll, so I can go plus at the end phase in theory. I activate this card here because this targets a monster and then blows up a back row. This card does the opposite. It targets a back row and then blows up a monster. The reason I do it in this order is that if I have a non-targeting monster removal, even if he chains Ray to it, I can still kill the monster that comes out. So Ray cannot dodge this effect. And that's why I do it in this order. Destroys monster, he activates Ray effect. I chain Maxi, so I can get my draws. I draw a Ray here. I mean, this is nice, but it's a little too late, considering how much back row he has. Now I go Jamming Waves here on this card. And he knows that if I resolve this Jamming Waves, I will be able to pop his monster, regardless of whether or not he chains Ray effect. So he chooses to Solemn Judgment this. This ends up costing him the game. Now right now I basically have no plays, because again, he still has the Widow Anchor. So I go Metal Foes. I still have 3 spells in grave after this, so I'm fine. I rip Shark Cannon off the top of the deck, and this lets me get a monster from his graveyard, and since this is the mirror match, this is extremely useful. I take his Kagari. I activate Kagari effect, and I get back my Jamming Waves. So at this point, I can again pop a back row and pop a monster, and he can't dodge it. But the problem, of course, is that I have a monster in the main zone, so I can't do that right now. So I go into Hayate here. He chains, or he activates Ray effect to go into Kaina to prevent my Hayate from attacking. But because that's a special summon, I draw a card, and I rip Widow Anchor off the top. And this lets me negate his effect. In turn, he chooses to Widow Anchor my Hayate here, which is pretty questionable, because it's not like my Hayate is doing anything right now. But anyway, he chooses to take my Hayate. And because he does that, I choose to take his Kaina. Because at this point I know that his last spell is Engage, which means unless he has a hand trap that can stop me, I can just do whatever I want here. And so I summon Effect Veiler, I make Hulk, and right here he concedes the duel. And the reason is because he knows that with Hulk I'm going to summon an Effect Veiler, link 3 into Selene, use that to summon my other Effect Veiler, and then link it to Access Code Talker, which will allow me to deal 5,300 damage, and he only had 41 left because he activated Solemn Judgment. And that was the duel. I thought that was a lot of misplays by my opponent, and that allowed me to overcome this insane difference in starting hand.